Yesterday we had on that pay base, just to finish off. We're already on the base already, but just to finish off. More kasha on Shmuel. Shmuel had said in the name of Levi that if someone, if a woman asked herself to benefit from somebody, Ploni, Ploni Alai Mayfair, because one day she might need him, that's called Inin Nefesh. And the Gemara kasha from the Mishnayos, and the Gemara on the Amud Beis has a teretz, which the Rosh learns that is two terutzim. That's the question in how to learn now. The top line, Masnisen of Yossi, Damar Avuna Kuli Pekin of Yossi. That Erchanami, there's machlokes. The Mishnah you proved correctly that the Mishnah holds that not benefiting from somebody is not in a nefesh, but Shmuel doesn't hold like Rav Yossi because we had the whole rest of the parak is all going to be Rav Yossi, like Avuna said, the whole parak is Rav Yossi talking. And Rabbi Shmuel didn't mean to say according to Rav Yossi, meant according to the Chachamim. So Erchanami, you proved the Mishnah that not benefiting from somebody is not considered affliction. That's according to Rav Yossi, but Shmuel holds like the Rabbanan, and it is in a nefesh. The next line, we just left out the last line. Here, how to learn the Gemara. It might be a second teretz, and it's saying that even though it's not considered nefesh, not to benefit from somebody, but it is considered something that has to do with him. It affects him. We said there's a difference what kind of a neder it is. The husband has a right to nullify both kinds of nedarim. If it's nefesh, self-affliction, or it has something to do with it, affects him. And here it's not considered in nefesh, but it does affect him. How does it affect him? Because if she's not going to be able to benefit from a certain person, so then the husband is going to have to get her that benefit some other way. He's going to have to, that store she can't benefit from. He'll have to run around to different stores. So that's why it could be considered Vamishabein Olavena. You're right. And Shmuel himself might have only meant that they didn't mean to. Shmuel didn't mean to say that it's in a nefesh. Shmuel might have just meant to say that it's considered Vamish Bein Olavena because it affects him indirectly, and that's enough to be considered Vamish Bein Olavena.
That was the basic argument in the whole thing, that it's Bein, which Nui La Bein Olavena. That was always.
There are two categories.
Different to the other.
There are two categories that a husband has a right to be made for. One is in a nefesh, and one is Vamish Bein Olavena. And when it's in a nefesh, he has the right to nullify it completely. When it's the Vamish Bein Olavena, it's only as long as it's relevant to him. Once you marry somebody else, then it takes effect. And there was a Mishnah focus about some issues about Rechitza and Kisha, that those things are considered in a nefesh or not. Rav Yossi said not. And the rest of the parak now is going to be Rav Yossi. And even though we found in the rest of the parak, in the first Mishnah already, we found that it's not considered in a nefesh that someone should be usher to benefit from others. That's what the Mishnah says in the case of a chenveni, that it's not considered in a nefesh. According to Rav Yossi, Shmuel still could say that that's according to Rav Yossi, but Rabbanan will argue and say that it is considered in a nefesh. Another point, that maybe Shmuel does not mean to argue on Rav Yossi, maybe he agrees with Rav Yossi, he's just saying that it's considered Vamish Bein Olavena, that Rav Yossi also could agree that it's Vamish Bein Olavena. I just meant to say that it's not considered a self-affliction. That was just to finish up yesterday's Gemara. We spoke about that a chenveni, it is more Vamish Bein Olavena because he's going to have to go to a different grocery store to get her food. But regular Ploni, does that necessarily affect him? If she can benefit from somebody, which right now he's not a storekeeper, does that mean that it's going to affect him in any way? So the Rosh talks about that, to start how to learn the Gemara. So we'll leave that open. Hey, Beis and with Beis. I'm not reading Shmuel. That's the case. The yellow is the case. And there's going to be a machlokas between Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan. Shmuel's going to be in the green. Rabbi Yochanan is going to be in the blue. So just to get the case. Rabbi Shmuel said, the case is that she asked herself on 2 loaves of bread. One of them is a inui, one of them is not an inui. What does that mean? So that's 2 pshatim in the Mefarshim. In the case, we could say, just to make it simple without getting into the words, that she made a neder which encompasses 2 things. One is considered in a nefesh, one is not. Whatever the case is. The Mishnah gives, the Brisa gives you a case. We'll say, okay, Shmuel gives a case. But just to get the idea before the case, that she made a neder which included 2 things. One which was considered self-affliction and one was not.
When she liked, when she didn't like.
Okay, that's one shot. Very nice. That's one shot in the Mefarshim. That one was
loaves, right?
2 different loaves. That's 2 different loaves, and one was a whole wheat, whatever, with a lot of bran and dip and all kinds of things. Then she doesn't like it anyway. and the other one is one that she does like. You can do the opposite. She likes the whole wheat bread. She doesn't like that, not the white bread, whatever it is. So the one that she likes and not eating it is considered affliction. The other one she doesn't like anyway, so it's not considered self-affliction. That's one pshat. The other pshat is that she needs to eat only one loaf. She doesn't need 2 loaves. She only needs 1 loaf, and she asks for 2 loaves. If she doesn't need anything, then it's inu nefesh. But if she eats 1, it's not inu nefesh.
I see.
Because if 1 is enough, if I don't have to eat 2 loaves, whatever the case is going to be, the point is to say that he has a right to nullify one of the loaves because that would be considered inu nefesh, either because the type of loaf or because she doesn't need so many. And the other one, he does not have a right to nullify. He's not authorized to nullify because it's not inu nefesh. So whatever case you want to say, you can make another case also. But she made a neder which has 2 parts, which affects some things which are inu nefesh and it affects some things which are not inu nefesh. So of course he could nullify the part which is inu nefesh. And the focus is going to be, does that already give him a handle on the whole thing? If you nullify part of it, he's allowed to nullify the other half also, even though it's not inu nefesh. Since it was a package deal, she made both of them together. If he has authorization to nullify part of it, does he have authorization to nullify the whole thing? Just to read the words inside. She asked herself on 2 loaves. One of them is considered self-affliction, one of them is not. So Shmuel says, since he has the right to nullify the one which is an affliction to her, so he also has the right to nullify the one which is not an affliction.
Because
It puts them into one category.
because the neder was plural.
It was a collective. It was both of them. It wasn't 2 separate nedarim. It was 2 separate nedarim. This one he could, this one he can't. But one.
I guess that's
what you meant. Okay, so she put it all together.
In Chaim David's case, where it's specifically only this one for sure is inu and this one for sure is not. And Shmuel is saying that you matter everything, right?
Because it was not 2 nedarim. It was one that included 2
neder on
things.
both of them, and
Right.
as long as one is an inu,
So
the
he
whole
could-
thing's off.
Right, that's what Shmuel says. Or he doesn't say the whole thing's off. He says he has a right to be made for the other one also.
He has a right.
When he, it doesn't mean that since we had a lot of Gemara someplace else that maybe has relevance to this Gemara, that if some of it goes off, it doesn't say that since he's made for one, the other one goes off.
Oh, he
It
says,
says since he can make
has
for
the
one,
right.
so he's made for the other one also. It's his afar which is doing it.
Even the one you don't like,
I'm also made for. I'm made for both of them.
So it's not exactly like Neder Shulta Mitzvah.
Right. It's like that here. It says that he has to be
It's not
made for
like
both,
this.
but he has the right to do it. And they talk about, isn't that maybe it's enough just to be made for a part, and then mail everything will go off. It doesn't say that. He says that he has the right to be made for both. Since he's authorized on part of it, he's authorized on the whole thing. Even though it doesn't go to regular klolim, it's not in a nefesh. Since he's being made for part of the neder, which is in a nefesh, so then right, that's what. But it goes together somehow. It's one unit, and therefore, if he's happy, if he has the right to be made for half, he has the right to be made for the whole thing. Rabbi Yochanan argues, he only has the right to make for the part that he does, and there's no special exception over here. He doesn't have the right to nullify the one which is not self-affliction. Machlokes. There's ikadami over here. Usually ikadami means a different opinion, a different quote of Rabbi Yochanan. Here it comes out the same thing. I think it's like a lishna achrina. It's just another gift of saying the same thing. It doesn't even make, I don't think there's no difference over here. Ikadami, the same thing about Rabbi Yochanan and Rabasi. The first way is quoted, Rabasi said on the name of Rabbi Yochanan. The second version just says how it came about. The Vasi asked Rabbi Yochanan, what's the din in this case? Which is what was the first thing that was quoted, that Rabbi Yochanan said in this case, where it was two loaves, one was affliction, one was not. So Rabbi Yochanan said that you cannot be made for the one that is not. So I don't see any difference between the 2 ikadamis. Usually this would be a lashon achrina, just another version, not another ikadami. Ikadami usually means that there are 2.
That's only that one side, anyway.
This is Rabbi Yochanan. Yeah, it's the ikadami of Rabbi Yochanan. And Shmuel, and Rabasi said, I asked Rabbi Yochanan, and he said different than Shmuel. Yes? Lashon Nedarim. I think Lashon Nedarim is different than the rest of the Shas. That in the whole Shas, if you have Lishon Achrina and Ikadami means there's a different opinion that's being quoted, and Lishon Achrina means Nusach Acher. That's a different version that the printer wrote in.
That's only in the dome.
No, Nedarim, you can say Ikadami even if it's Lishon Achrina, and Lishon Achrina even though it's Ikadami. Let's forget about it.
It's not
According to Rabbi Yochanan, there's 2 loaves. Okay, they're both, like say, they're both whole wheat, and she likes whole wheat. Okay, so
But she doesn't
need 2 because she only.
One is enough.
One.
One is
So let's
enough.
say now she goes to eat the first one, and it will spoil.
Oh, so, okay, if it's more than,
Then she could take the second one, so,
yeah, I guess so.
yeah.
I guess so, because I got spoiled after. There's no first and second, there are two. He
Right,
didn't-
but
she-
you-
So one, I'm taking off the husband takes off the nether of one of them. That means that you can eat one and one you cannot eat.
So one spoiled then.
That's the one that I'm not gonna eat.
Yeah.
Okay, so the machlokes is good so far.
Great.
The Ikadam in Lishtachmir will come across again. We'll come across that thing again. Okay, now we're gonna look for
Shmuel
proof.
is like going further, but making Kiddush.
Right, Shmuel is saying that you have extra permission over here, and the Yochanan says nothing different than usual. You only could do what you could, the regular laws.
Okay.
Whatever you're not, whatever's not Inui, you're not authorized. Ace. So let's do it outside, and then I think it'll flow, more or less. A woman makes herself on a zero. We're gonna get this is getting us getting ready for Nazir next week. So that's the next.
It's next
Oh,
week already.
I think so. So
Next Tuesday is the thing, and then I guess.
Week from tomorrow.
A week from Wednesday.
So a woman, there's such thing as becoming a Nazir. How about a woman? She can make herself a Nazira. Yes, a woman can make herself a Nazira.
Uh-huh.
What if the husband doesn't like it? He doesn't want his wife to be a Nazir, a Nazira.
If it bothers him, then he can say no.
Oh, why does it bother him? Okay, we'll get to talk about that.
What's
Why is
Inui
it-
for sure?
So let's talk about Inui. Is it Inui? Is it
Yes.
considered? What's Inui about it?
Candy grapes.
Okay. How about the other things about a Nazir? There's other things about a Nazir
She
also.
had them hair cut.
You can't cut her. Does it bother him? Does it Inui nefesh not to cut her hair?
It's getting real.
Okay. How, and the
Even
third.
if one thing bothers him.
And the third-
One thing bothers him.
Rapunzel.
Sure, that's it. That's enough to.
You hold like Shmuel? That's
No,
right. Yes, that's what he does.
He has Inui.
You're asking me-
She's a one.
No,
Yeah,
forget- no,
in
forget
this
it.
case, it's even more so because she's a one body entity. She's a one.
You.
I don't understand.
Let's go to the next case. She also she to become not to become tummy, not to become tummy. Another has three laws: not to drink wine and anything related, and not to cut hair, and not to become tummy lames. Is there any inui nefesh in not becoming tummy to the dead?
Yeah, her relatives. You won't be able to bury her up.
That's not his problem.
It's Inui, isn't it? No?
I didn't think of that.
You didn't think of
I didn't
that?
think of that. Okay, so let's put it aside. Put that in the footnote. But regularly, not to go to a funeral.
No.
She won't go to a funeral. It's not called Inu Nefesh.
Yeah.
And also, the Gemara is going to talk about Nazir is also not, besides the grapes and the wine, also not allowed to eat even the pits and the shell and the shells. Is that Inu Nefesh not to eat pits?
No.
No. So now, could he
But
could
the
he
grapes,
take?
yeah.
So could he take off? So Chaim David's saying, I take it slow. Chaim David's slow in slow motion. That the grapes for sure he could be made for.
Yeah,
Wine,
the
grapes,
wine,
because the
wine.
wine, grapes, because in nefesh. Now, how about the pits? Could he be made for? Could he be made for the naziris as far as the pits go? Because it's not in your nefesh. Does it ring a bell a little bit about Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan? That's what they're talking about. That Shmuel would say that he could be made for everything, even for the pits, and Rabbi Yochanan would say not. Also about
A lot
also.
of
well,
complications.
Also, we're not solving. We're asking a question. There's a issue here. There's Machok Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan. If a husband has a right to be made, she made a neder, which includes many things. Some are in a nefesh, some are not, and he has the right to nullify the part which is in a nefesh. Does he also have the right to nullify the thing which is not? So here, the case of the nazir, she made herself a nazir, and that is partly in a nefesh. She can't eat grapes and wine. But it's partly not in a nefesh because pits is not in a nefesh, and also going to a funeral is not in a nefesh.
So I would suggest that she's in one, you have to treat, I think Shmuel is correct.
Okay, so you want to
She's a one entity.
So saying Shmuel is correct, and
I
he's
think
saying
you see very
and he's
clearly.
saying that there's a riot to Shmuel from the Brisa. That's what the Gemara is doing. So why are you? Rabbi Yochanan, he's saying Rabbi Yochanan is wrong. You're arguing Rabbi Yochanan. You're arguing Rabbi
We don't know
Yochanan.
which way the price is going.
Right, sorry.
That's what I'm going to say. We're going to no. What do you mean? Which way the Brisa? If you bring a Brisa one way, it's supposed to prove.
No, we didn't have to trade.
I didn't even say the Brisa yet. I just gave it a
We don't
preview.
know.
We don't know what it
We don't have
says.
the eight space.
Right. Okay. We didn't even know what it says. Anyway, bottom line. A woman made herself a nazir, and she was drinking wine and becoming defiled to the dead.
Oh, she was drinking and.
Yeah, she made a
Saying
nazir,
that she became
and
a
she
nazir?
did against the nazir. She made herself a nazir, and she drank wine, and she became defiled to the dead. So what's halacha?
How could she do that?
She's chayv malchus.
Uh,
Hare zu sefega says Abraham. She's chayv malchus.
What is the figure? She has to.
she absorbs the
Absorb, thank
malchus.
you.
Maybe it's a better word for sophagus, but it means, I don't know, I really don't know. Usually sophagus means to absorb,
That's good.
but I don't know if that's what it means, whatever it says, sophagus arbon. She's chayv malchus. She's gonna have to bear the malchus. But I'm not sure what the word means. How about if the husband was made for the neder?
But they're not. As simple as it is.
Wait a minute.
Why is there any?
The wine and the mason.
How does the husband have a right to be made for a neder of Nazirus? That's what the Gemara is going to analyze. Here it says the rice is going to say that if it was made for the neder is all. If the husband nullified the neder of Nazirus, he lo yada it says a side she didn't even know about it, and she kept on doing the same avera of drinking wine. Then the husband tells her I was made for her. So there's no malchus, even though she thought she's doing a avera. Like someone wakes up and thinks that it's Shabbos and he turns off the light, or turns on the light, and then we tell him it's not Shabbos. Like it wasn't, he didn't do any Avera. Even though he meant to do an Avera, he didn't do an Avera. So yeah, she meant to do an Avera, and it's not Avera because the husband took off the Nazirus.
But David doesn't put it in very good stead because she had an intention which was.
Okay, that one talks about that sometimes, that even if you thought you're doing an Avera, even though you weren't, that's what it says, Vashem Yislach La. And she went on drinking wine and Tamal and Mason. She's not Chayv Malchus because the husband took it off. What do you see? That the husband has the right to take off the Nazirus. And now the Gemara analyzes this Mishnah and is going to say that you see, like Rabbi Yochanan against Shmuel. I'm sorry, you see against Rabbi Yochanan, you see like Shmuel.
Because we're going to say that Matame Mason is not in it.
So it's not going to say that there, it's going to talk about the pits, the shells and the pits. Later on,
she drank wine. It didn't say that.
So the Gemara, you're right, very good. And the Gemara thinks that it doesn't say dafka wine and not pits, so the Gemara thinks it includes pits also. So you're saying, who says? Doesn't say that. Okay, that's a nice.
Yeah,
question.
the other thing is that the Matame Mason, I think, could be an email.
Also good. I didn't think about that also.
What could it be?
Maybe it's
Could
a
be
stuff.
an Inuit,
If it will be, she can't go to a
potential
relative,
because
to a
if her
relative.
parents die, she can't go to the wedding, to the
Mhm.
funeral.
Maybe I didn't think about that. I didn't see them before. Maybe they asked the kasha. I don't know. The fourth line. If Rabbi Yochanan is right that it does not authorize the husband to nullify those nedarim which are not affliction. The word dilma, the mafresh by the word dilma. It's not maybe. The one to say he wouldn't be able to if he cannot make for the one that is not affliction. So then he only was able to make for the wine, which abstinence from the wine is called a tzara. But the how do you say shell? How do you say the shell?
The heart sound.
How do you say that? The shell.
That's the pits.
That's
No,
the
the
pits.
skin.
What the skin? The skin. Thank you. The
That's
skin
heart
is the.
sounds.
They say that the chasen is the pits and the zag is the skin. But the pits and the skin, which is not a affliction not to eat, he was not able to be made for, and she should be chayv malchus if she would eat. Now it doesn't say that she ate grapes; it says that she drank wine. So the wine doesn't have the pits and the skins. But the Gemara assumes the fact that it doesn't specify, so it sounds like when a husband is made for the zeros of his wife, the whole thing goes off. And the concept is that it shouldn't go off only on what's considered an inoy. And the Gemara is not talking about the tumas meisa. The Gemara is talking about the pits and the skin of the is not considered an inoy, not to eat it. And that's the most kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. You seem to see it seems to say over here that he could take the whole Nazirus off. On Rabbi Yochanan.
Because it's
Like
like
Shmuel.
he mayfairs and she.
And she's not chayiv
she's not
malchus.
chayv malchus.
And it doesn't specify only for those things that are in and nefesh. It's much, but the whole Nazirus goes off. Rav Yosef, ain't Nazirus lachatzayin. The Nazirus is inseparable. You can't have a half a Nazirus only for wine and not for pits. So if he's able to take off
Any
the,
zero stuff that's in.
yeah, there's no Nazirus halfway. Nazirus is a package deal, and it can't be that for wine and grapes, yes, and for pits, not. Either the whole thing is on, the whole thing is off. And since he does have a right to take off the part which is Inui, so then automatically he goes off because the Nazirus lachatzan. But as far as the Hafara, he doesn't have the koch to be made for the part which is not Inui. But by Nazirus, it automatically goes off because there's no such thing as a half a Nazirus.
So is this a nail in the coffin or is this a support for? Rabbi
One
Yochanan?
is a nail in the coffin.
This is a big kasha on Rabbi Yochanan or this?
We just answered it. We had a kasha, and if Joseph saved him, if
Saved
Joseph
him?
saved Rabbi Yochanan,
There's no half, when it comes to.
Nazirus
zeros,
can't be a half a Nazirus.
Oh,
Two loaves
there
of
can't
bread.
There could be a half.
How about
In
the
zeros,
Nedarim
there
can't?
be a half.
So if he's able to take off part of it, the whole thing crumbles.
And it could be like Rabbi Yochanan.
And Rabbi Yochanan could be right, that you could take only, you could make for only thing which is
He
affliction.
could be
not-
right in what he said, and then this isn't a kasha.
Right, because he took off half, and if you take off half, then the Nazirus itself crumbles by itself. The rest of it cannot stand on its own. Rabbi Yochanan said if you have 2 loaves of bread, so you can nullify one and not the other one. But here, if you nullify part of it,
the
Nazir-
Naziris, and the Naziris covers everything.
one,
You say it that way. He didn't take off the wine, he took off the whole Naziris.
you can't take of that, you can't take off the whole, there also, by the bread also, he said the whole thing is the whole thing is nullified, but on half of it, it doesn't work. On the 2 loaves of bread, he nullified both of them, but one of them he didn't have authorization to. On the second one, he didn't have authorization, so it doesn't work. So one it works, one it doesn't work.
But here.
But here, if he does have, whatever he's able to do, he does, and the other one crumbles by itself. Because there can't be a half a Nazirus on its own. You can't have a Nazirus just from pits.
Oh, if he takes up his half, there is no other, you can't say it's our left.
Right.
Okay.
So Yochanan is back on the page.
Or even 2 different malachas, 2 different isurim, like going to the funeral, going to the funeral.
That's going to be later on in the Gemara. We'll see.
Right now, we're talking about just
The pits and the pits and the grapes and the pits. Right. So we say that it can't be an Nazirus just for pits and skin. It has to be for the whole thing. If you took off the grapes and the wine, then this also goes off. Not because he did it, because it
Not because
automatically.
he did it. It's automatic. Okay.
Now we get a bonus. The bonus is about 10 lines.
Wow.
So we saw the Yisvei was on Rabbi Yochanan.
And the answered him.
Mhm.
The Gemara is going to continue 4 lines from the bottom with another kasha. But in between, we get a bonus over here. Amalei Abaye.
It's in parentheses.
Yeah, I put it in parentheses if you like.
Somewhere.
From Amalei Abaye until the end of the 5th line. And about 5 lines up from the bottom at the end of the line.
What's the word? Because I haven't.
Ala Suffolk, right before Esfei.
Oh, came out the same, okay.
Okay, so the Gemara goes on a side point. Amalei Abaye, or Korban Lechatzi Nazirus Ika. It seems to be a side point, Legami, nothing to do with us. That he said, Ein Nazirus Lachatzan. That is not a half a Nazirus. You can't have half a Nazirus only on the pits and not on the grapes. And Abaye said to Rav Yosef, you said Ein Nazirus Lachatzan. How about a Korban? Is there such a thing as a Korban Lechatzi Nazirus? A Korban Lechatzi Nazirus Ika? There's a halacha that when a person's a Nazirus, he brings a Korban at the end. There's also Korban for being
Wait,
Tameh.
this is Abaye to Rabbi Yossi?
Yes. Abaye is asking if Yosef is Rebbe. Korban
Yosef
Lechatzi
is
Nazirus.
is a Amora, right?
Yes, yes.
The
And
Korban.
the Korban Lechatzi Nazirus Ika?
He's asking.
Is he doesn't end Nazirus Lachatzayin.
Yeah.
I hear a little bit that you're not saying they can't be half a Nazirus. Could there be a Korban for half a Nazirus? Korban Lechatzi Nazirus Ika?
What kind of question is that?
Did you mean to say that there's only no Nazirus, but no half a Nazirus? But you didn't say that there's no Korban. You should have said, I don't know. You should have said words differently in a way that would have included. I don't see the diak well, but that's the whole subject going to be. That's not a get to us at all. We answered the kasha, Ein Nazirus Lachatzayin. But he wants to know. It seems to be a side point. Legamri, we could go into Maseches Nazir for this. If someone had a half a Nazirus somehow, half a Nazirus, they're going to say, what's half a Nazirus? They said there's no such thing as half a Nazirus, but there could be half a Nazirus in a different sense, that she became a Nazir, and then halfway through the 30 days, he was made for, and we know how far it happens from now on. So now she stops. It's nullified. She's not going to be a Nazir anymore. Is there a Korban on the first 15 days that she had?
You think so, yes.
So Amalei Abaye Korban Lechatzi Nazirus Ika? No. Elam Rabbaye Ein Nazirus Lachatzan, Ein Korban Lachatzan. That there's no such thing as half a Nazirus, and if there was a case of half a Nazirus by being made for it in the middle of midway, so then there's no Korban. And not was going into that subject, nothing to do with us, I think. I don't know, maybe I'm getting it wrong, but that's what it seems to be, that there's no shaykhs to our subject. We can put in parentheses and remember it by Nazir. Is there such a thing as being a Korban? If the husband was made for the Nazirus halfway through, does she bring a Korban for the Nazirus that she had?
Like if you fast half a day, did you fast? If you fast a half a Yom Kippur, do you get a kapara? Might be a Maisa Torah, but you didn't finish Yom Kippur. No, I'm saying, let's say you couldn't eat more. I don't know.
I'm not sure of the answer to your question, but does it have to do with us? Does it have to?
He's saying that like the Nazirs, let's say it was going to be for 30 days.
It was supposed to be for 30 days, and he
Okay.
stopped it midway.
So then,
Fine, so half a
so
day
he's
of
saying
fast.
maybe it means there was nothing.
Half a day.
So you want to say
fasting.
therefore there's no Korban. So you agree to buy in Korban Lachatzan. If the husband knocked it down halfway, so that is no, we're not going to be the Korban Nazirus. Usually after you finish the Nazirus, you bring a Korban, Patasola and Shlomim. And now that he knocked it down halfway, there's not going to be a Korban. Meisvei, Akasha on this yesod of Ein Korban and Ein Korban Lachatzan. On this premise of Ein Korban Lachatzan, we ask Akasha. A woman made herself a nazir, and it happens to be that she became tummy. It doesn't say it over. You have to stick it in. She became tummy.
Where
what-
am
Right here.
I? Nazir.
After, and she became tummy. What's the then if a nazir becomes tummy? You have to start again.
You have to start.
And first you bring a korbanos. You bring korbanos of a chatas ola and a asham. The chatas ola are birds, and doesn't say the difference if it's rich or poor. Chatas ola are birds and a korban asham. And then he starts again.
Because she became tummy.
Right. That's usually any nazir that becomes tummy in the middle. That someone died in the building and he didn't know it was a mistake, even if it was a onus, it wasn't his fault.
Oh, yeah.
So you bring korbanos, three korbanos, two birds and an animal. The two birds are chatas and ola, chatas of ola so, and also a korban asham.
And she didn't finish the.
And then it's done again.
And start again.
That's the regular din of a korban of a nazir tummy.
I say a korban, nazir tahor.
Brings three animals, chatas ola and shlamim.
Nothing to do with this. This is
Nothing to do with this. This
these
is
are
the
separate.
This is the korban is another tummy. There's another tummy and another tor.
Okay.
So you know what about the nazir tummy, and now Hifrisha Behemta, she designated the animal that she needs for the korban, the asham, and then the husband nullified the nazirus.
Wow.
So now there's no nazirus. Does she bring the korban on the days that she had been a nazir and she became tummy? That she regular if it was a nazir, regular nazir brings the korban for the nazirus that they did, and then it became tummy. And now it says he was made for the nazirus. So it says Bala mevia chatas ha'ov, ve'enu mevia ola so. That's what it says. That the husband who brings the korbanos of his wife's nazirus. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, thank you. Ach gefel bala, comma. Yeah, I got to put the comma over there.
Yeah.
So she brings the korban. Thank you very much.
So she separated a korban.
And then her husband was made for it.
Mhm.
So what does she bring? She brings the chata soap. She doesn't bring the ola soap.
She brings the hot.
Usually she would bring a chata soap, ola soap, and a korban asham. And here it says that she only brings the chata soap, and she doesn't bring the ola soap.
What's the chatas? Because she became tummy.
Every nazir tummy is supposed to bring a chata soap and an ola soap, and here it says she only brings a chata soap, which is anyway surprising. What is that? What is it? Chata soap, not ola soap. What's that? If you're supposed to bring, either you bring it or you don't bring it. So that's the kasha. If you say in korban
Oh,
lachasi
in other
nazir,
words, she didn't bring the asham.
it doesn't say. It says she only Hifrisha Behemta. It doesn't say beferish that she doesn't bring it. It just says that she brings the chata soap. She doesn't bring the ola soap. And the most kasha is why not bring the ola? Why do you bring the chata soap? If you say that nazirus, half an nazirus is nothing, so there should be no problem.
Would be nothing.
Rabbi, isn't the ola to compare alea? If let's say she finishes 30 days or anybody.
But we
So
said
that-
here in korban, he said there's no thing. He said she did nothing. She did nazirus that she did was nothing. I don't understand exactly because by every time that you do a nazir tummy, you didn't finish the whole 30 days yet. But let's see what the words say. You're gonna finish it, okay, but now you're not gonna finish it anymore. So the nazirus tummy also shouldn't be anything on the past either. I'm not sure why it's totally on that, but okay. If you say there's no such thing as no korban for half a nazirus, and now the nazirus was nullified, there's not going to be any nazirus. So
Mhm.
why does she bring the chatas? So the Gemara says back. Now I would think the Gemara would say, so what do you want? That there's nazirus, so bring the ola also. It says, what did the lacha say over here? She brings the chatas and she doesn't bring the ola. And if you say that there's no
What
such
does it mean
thing,
for elamai? How do you translate?
and what do you want to say? Elamai. We also say elamai. Elawat.
Yeah.
Elawat. What are you going to say? Yesh korban lachazin nazirus. So the more should have ended off. So why do you not bring the ola soap? Well, maybe highlighting makes it better. Here it says mevia chata soap, ve'ena mevia ola soap. Which doesn't make sense. It's contradicting in itself, right? That's the kasha. Either you're chayiv or you're not. It's supposed to be two korbanos, the chata soap and the ola soap. So here he said that the husband was made for it, so now something goes not the regular pattern, and only a chatas and not an ola. And the Gemara says if you hold ein korban l'chatzin nazirus, there's no such thing as a half a nazirus with the korban. So why do you bring half a korban? What do you bring korban for? Why does she bring the chatas soap? So the Gemara says, and according to you, what do you want to say? That there is a nazirus for the korban l'chatzin nazirus. So why does she not bring the ola soap? But the Gemara doesn't say that. The Gemara means
She did a sin. I mean, it's not
There's
an
no
unintentional sin. She had to bring a chatas because she was a nazira at the time, and she became tamei.
Is
So
that
she had
the-
to bring a
is there a
chatas?
nazirus that was nullified halfway through? The husband nullified the nazirus. It's not going
No,
to
but
be.
she already becomes tamei. So she was chayav And only then was she pater, mefar, mufar, mufra.
She would like her to bring both kabbanas.
You never bring a chatasov by itself.
I understand why you can't bring the second one, because she had to bring the chatas as an unintentional sin.
It's either in the zero, so it's not in the zeros.
I understand, but she was in the zero.
So then she should bring all this over also.
No, because the olas op is only in the hashlamat of the zero.
I'm not sure what you mean to say. We're talking about another time. We're not talking about another Torah. We're talking about another time. Another time brings three things: 2 birds, chatas and ola, and an asham.
Oh,
And now we're telling her to bring only the chatas of, and that doesn't make sense. As we call manashach, whichever way you want to say it's in a zero, so bring all the kabbanas. You want to say it's not in a zero, don't bring any kabbanas. What is this to bring a chatas of? That's the Gemara's kasha. Dr. Fine, what are you saying?
You never bring chatasov by itself. Always bring a chatasov over the ola.
Right, and here
Because then it goes to the mizbeach for chatasov.
yes, there's no such thing as a chatas of by itself.
interesting.
Is that true as a clown always? You have over there by
One more thing.
yeah, probably right. That's after 1 second, just for a second.
This open is never go by itself.
Oh, it always goes together with the ola. Ola so.
But we have a brisa here, whatever this is.
Yeah, this is surely an exception. That's included in the question. What like Mazda? What is this thing over here? Right, yeah, it always goes together. So that's including the Gemara's kasha. Like, what is this?
If you finish eating by before 7:30, you get there.
1 second, please. Okay. The Gemara's should say that, and the Mefarshim say that the Gemara means to say that, even though it doesn't say that. That's a little difficult in the wording, a little hurdle over here coming up. Here it says the Elamai. 1 second, please.
What about Shlosh Behemoths? Aren't we there?
Yeah, we are there.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry,
We're still
Elamai.
learning from
I'm
before.
The
sorry.
Elamai.
No. Oh, I'm sorry, Elamai.
Yesh Korban L'Chatzin Nazirus.
Yeah.
So what do we expect the Gemara to say? So bring the Olasov.
Mhm.
No, it doesn't say that. It says Sholosh Be'emes Boy Lasuye Chatas Olo Shlamim, which is like out of the ballpark. Chatas Olo Shlamim is where as the Nazir Tohar. That's a regular Nazirus after you finish everything. You're supposed to bring 3 kabbanas. Just to recall the halachas about a Nazir. There's a Nazir Tameh, and then there's a Nazir Tohar when he finishes. The Nazir Tameh is supposed to bring Chatas Ola Asham, and the Nazir Tohar is supposed to bring Chatas Ola Shlamim. We're not talking
about the good guy.
the Torah, the one who finished, the one who
Torah
finished.
guy brings 3. That's what we just said.
No, it's shalosh behemos, not 2 birds and a behemoth, 3
Yeah.
behemoths. Chatas ola shlamim. And
3
we're not talking about that at all. The Gemara is bringing in a subject has nothing to do with us. We're not talking about a Nazir Torah. We're talking about a Nazir Tameh who brings 2 birds and an animal. And we're telling to bring 1 bird. And that was the kasha. And the kasha should have ended off. If you hold the Yesh Korban L'Chatzin Nazirus, you should have brought the olas off.
But we didn't say that.
And it doesn't say that. It says you should bring 3 behemoths, which are chatas ola shlamim. So the Mefarshim explain that's what the Gemara means. The Gemara means if it would be finishing this person, this woman that got cut off in the middle, she did 15 days and then the husband was made for it, she should bring 3 animals, chatas ola shlamim, which is not our subject. We're talking about another tameh. She became tameh in the middle, and the kasha should have been, she should have brought the whole carbon tameh, which is also a chatas ola saof. That's what the Gemara means to say. The same way, if she'd be tohar, she should have brought 3 animals. If she's tameh, she should bring whatever tameh person is supposed to bring. Very strange why the Gemara jumped and is telling it like very roundabout what the Gemara means to say. But that's the Gemara's kasha.
That's
And-
what it means. It means like just as she should have followed the law.
Right, very good. That's the way to say it.
Should have-
And whatever the law is, if you're talking about a nazir tohar, bring 3 animals. You're talking about a nazir tameh, so at least bring all the stuff you're supposed to bring over here. Just see the rush over here. They also, I think they all say the same
What does
thing.
that mean? She brings both the chatas off,
She's not
and she
a,
brings the 3 behemoths.
no.
No?
We're talking about a nazir tameh over here. We're not talking about a nazir tohar. Kimul elamai yesh korban chatzi nazirus. Kimul behemes boy lasuye. Im lo nitmeis. Im lo nitmeis. Throw that in. If she didn't become tameh, that a nazir tohar, she may be chatas ola shlamim. V'hacha she nitmeis tavi kol korban es tumah. So very strange why the Gemara talks that way, and I didn't see anybody. I didn't look around so much, but that's what the other Mefarshim also seem to say on the page. So that's the Gemara's kasha. Manavshach means you're not. You brought a raya that anyway is difficult. What is this invention of bringing chatasov and not bringing olasov?
In other words, just as if she were tahar, she would bring 3 animals.
So now that
So
she's
if you're
tameh,
tameh, bring 2 birds and a
right.
and a ash.
So it means manavshach. You're not improving anything. Your kasha is a good kasha. What's found the price over here, but it doesn't have to do with our subject about korban lechatzi and naziros. Ela la'olam and korban lechatzi and naziros. So how come she brings the oath? V'chatas of the masya, mishum chatas ala safek. So this is a concept we have many times. There's something called the chatas of ala safek. Usually, if you have a suffix, you can't bring a korban with suffix because on the side you're not supposed to bring the korban. You're not sure if you're supposed to bring a korban. So usually you can't because it's called chulin bazar. That is it's to bring chulin bazar. But by a bird, there's a chatas ha'of. You could bring a chatas ha'of ala safek because ein lemazbeach el adama. You squeeze the blood on the mizbeach and that's all you do. Usually the kohanim is supposed to eat it, and here the kohanim are not going to eat it. There's no issue of chulin bazar on the bird. Ola sauf, usually if you have a suffix, so you can bring ola sauf on it tonight. If you have a suffix, if you chayv ola sauf, so you can bring the ola sauf and say if I'm chayv, and if not, then it should be in a dava, like we do sometimes by davening. So by ola sauf, you can do that. Either bring the ola. If I'm chayv, I'm chayv. If I'm not, I'm bringing it for a dava. But you can't bring a chatas in the dava. No such thing as a chatas in the dava. So what do you do if you have a suffix? If you chayv a chatas sauf. So if you're not sure if you're chayiv a chatas behemo, you can't bring the chatas on a suffix. But a chatas ha'of you could, because if I'm chayiv, I'm chayiv. If I'm not, so I'm not. And there's no isachul and bazara just to do malika and to put the blood on the mizbech. He didn't do anything wrong, and the kohanim won't eat it. Anyway, what does the one with all that? That is not so. If you have any tzad to bring a chatas ha'of, you could bring it, even though really ain't korban lechatzi in the zeros. But okay, bring the chatas ha'of.
So then bring the chatas on the
So I'm saying, okay, according to what I'm saying,
what you just said.
I added on more than the Gemara said, so I shouldn't have said it. You're
No,
right.
but it's nice
No.
to know the fact. I'm not saying.
We're saying that if she's chayiv, then it's a chatas, and if not, it's a nadava.
No. No, there's no such thing as a chatas. No such thing as a chatas nadav.
No, if she's not chayiv, then
So-
it's a nadava.
No, there's no such thing as a chatas nadav. You can't make
You can't make a chatas something. Or you
no.
can't make
You know, the different ways how you're doing it. You're doing it on the mizbeach.
Oh,
There's
so then what are
different
we
laws.
saying? So what does
So-
the suffix do?
That you're allowed to bring it, even though it might not be a korban, you didn't do anything wrong. On the side that you're not chayiv chatas, you didn't do anything wrong. There's no isachul and bazara on the birds.
It's not considered.
That's that you're not going to
Whereas
do anything.
If not,
You're not going to put it on the
anything
mizbeach. You're not going to put it on the
that's
mizbeach. You're not going to mark it on the mizbeach. You're just going to sprinkle the blood on the mizbeach, squeeze the blood on the mizbeach, and then
unlike all
Not
the
gonna
other
eat it.
tasks, which are behemoths,
you have to put on the mizbeach. You have to be marked on the mizbeach.
That's
So here it says, "Achinami bekal."
It's a machaper on the Avera. That's why it's bringing a chatas and not a nolam. It's machaper on the Avera.
Yeah, but over here the problem is that there is no in the zeros lachasson. So there is no avera. Why is it avera?
She didn't.
But in the zeros lachasson. So the Rush helps out your problem. The gambo yakapora karev yeleza kapakabadam nazachota you. That is that the fact that he was makabel in the zeros, that's already a bad thing, even though it wasn't an actual naziros that was coming out. So it says the Gemara is going to tell us in Nazir more than it says over here. And the whole thing is parentheses because the has nothing to do with us. We're not talking about korban at all. It's not our subject. Back to our subject, we wanted to know. Yes, go
This
ahead.
isn't a suffix if he mayfared it or not.
No, he was
What's
made for
this?
it. He was made for it.
If it worked or not.
after she became.
And
What
Ain't
is the
zeros
suffix?
lachas.
What is the suffix?
There's no suffix. There is no suffix. That's why the Gemara is a little difficult. There is no suffix over here. Ain't zeros lachatzayin, and the whole thing is nothing, and really shouldn't bring a korban.
So
But
what
since
do you do?
chatasov is easy to bring, it's not a dangerous thing to do. So bring it. So the Rosh says, and she did something wrong by being Mekabel Naziris. Every Nazir is a bit guilty because you shouldn't.
Even if she only did a half, she's still a little bit.
She abstained from Hashem's
Right.
world,
Exactly.
and even though
She
after everything was
did
over, you
understand.
abstained for nothing. But Maisi abstained. So there's some kind of a. So it's. I'm not saying it's an easy Gemara, but I hope we wait for Nazir. Maybe we'll get more clarity over there. But the whole thing is in parentheses over here, L'chora, because our subject is not about a korban. Our subject is in Zirus Lachatzon. Let me just erase the emphasis over here. We're not emphasizing this part. We just want in Zirus Lachatzon. And if you want to, just to put the parentheses in Maseches Nazir, we'll get there one day. I hope it's going to be there also. The question was that here the husband was made fair than the Zirus of his wife, she became a Nazira. She became a Nazira, and the husband said is Mufar. And the Bryce is mashma that even the pits and the skins also she's allowed to eat. It also, and how does he have the right to do that? That's not in a nefesh. It's a right to Shmuel that if you have a right to nullify the inui part, the non-Inui part also goes off, or he does it, and that's what it says over here. And if Yosef answers, Ein Nazirus Lachatzon. He does, according to Yochanan, is also good because he just takes off half, the part that he could, and the other part disintegrates by itself because no such thing as half and Nazirus. The next kasha is going to be what we started off with. Is another thing that you could have asked, that not to defile to the dead is also not Inui.
That's why.
It's not to become tummy. It's not an Inui. Not to drink wine is an Inui, but not to go to a funeral is an Inui. So the Gemara doesn't see it. Well, it's not an Inui. Leib Yaakov asked that it also is by relatives. We'll go further in the Gemara. What?
Whatever, to bury a close relative, a parent, a sister, whatever it is, I don't get into details. So it's an Inui that he's not
That's what Leib Yaakov asked.
agreeing with.
Okay, so the Gemara is assuming that not going to a funeral is not an Inui, and the Gemara's conscience is going to be that when a husband is made for the Nazirus of his wife, everything goes off, even the Tumah part also. Before the Gemara spoke about the pits and the skins, now the Gemara is talking about Tumah. Then that's the similar kasha that how's he have the right to be nullified completely? He only should nullify the drinking of the wine, and not to nullify the issue to go to become Tamil Mason. The Gemara could have asked the kasha from the brisa that said openly, the same brisa as we brought before, the Mishnah that we brought before, that says the case that she became an Nazir and she was Tamil Mason, and it says she's not so because I won. The Gemara could have asked it from there, and not simple why the Gemara goes someplace else. The Gemara goes to the case, Aisha, 4 lines up. Aisha shenadu benazir v'nitnes v'achka chayful labala mevi'ah chata sa'ov. It's a repetition of the brisa that was mentioned, brisa or Mishnah that was mentioned a few lines ago, and it's more explicit than the Mishnah we brought before that said about the Farish that she was Tamil Mason and she's not Chayid Malkus. For some reason, the Gemara brings it from here that if she made herself a Nazir and the husband was Mayfair, so again with the korban, half a korban, not a half a korban, but the question is that she should be chayiv a full korban for the tumah. If he's not able to undo the part which is not an inu nefesh, dilma, again the word dilma is lav dafka because the word is asking that he doesn't have the right, he doesn't have the power to. He's only able to be made for the part which is wine, which is tzar, which is inu nefesh. But mitumas makes the less tzar lo heifala. He wasn't able to be made for the part which. She should be Chayv Malkus and she should bring a regular korban. There's a regular Nazirus that asks her to go Tamil Mason. So we would expect that the Gemara would answer Ein Nazirus Lachatzon. The same answer we said before. When we asked the kasha with pits, we said no such thing as half a Nazirus.
So we only by Shmuel. Shmuel seems to be the popular.
Yeah, but I'm in the middle of explaining a problem. The Gemara is asking a kasha, bring a right to Shmuel. And the Gemara says here that you could be made for everything. The Gemara is answering of Yochanan now. So what answer would you expect the Gemara to say? The same as the Gemara said before, that no such thing as half a Nazirus. You can't make a Nazirus half. So the Mepharshim explained that answer before wouldn't apply over here. There's no half a Nazirus, it's only within the wine and the pits, these kind of things. Within, but wine without Tumah or Tumah without wine, that the Gemara doesn't push aside. Ein Nazirus Lachatzon. It could, that's what the Gemara, there is such a thing sometimes that the Nazir is allowed to become Tamil Mace. There is such a thing maybe that there's going to be. There's not drinking that the wine is he's allowed to drink wine and not allowed to become Tamil Mace. So the Gemara doesn't think the answer before. It could be, yeah. So they talk about that.
She's a Nazir. He's a Nazir.
We're talking about is there possible to have half a Nazirus that some things yes, some things not. So before the Gemara said no such thing as half a Nazirus as far as grapes, yes, wine and not pits. That the Gemara said. But here the Gemara doesn't use that answer. That it should be for. It can't have a case of Nazirus for Tumah and not for wine. Why doesn't the Gemara say that answer? Because the Gemara thinks maybe that it is possible. That kind of a half you maybe could divide. And even though he's able to take off the wine issue, she's not a nazir for the wine, but maybe she still remains a nazir for the tumah. And the Gemara doesn't think that the answer before would apply over here. So the Gemara needs a new answer. The Gemara's answer is that not going to a funeral is an affliction, not because of Lev Yaakov's reason, which I don't know the answer. That not going to a relative's funeral is an affliction, but Thomas Meisnami Isla Tzara, because if one does not attend others' funerals, then he will not have a big attendance at his funeral. And even though she's alive still, and she's not dead yet, but she's afflicted that no one's going to come to my funeral. Tichsev v'chayitin alibo, v'tanya Yirmei Omer, my tichsev v'chayitin alibo, the yispod lei, the yivkun lei, the yikvun lei. That the live person gives to himself. Hachayitin alibo, the live person gives to himself. The pashtam the pasuk is that the living should take to heart. When they go to a funeral, they should take to heart. That's the pasuk. Hachayitin alibo, the living should, the pasuk pshat, the living should take to heart. When they go to a funeral, they should think what life's all about and come home and enjoy life. What does enjoy life mean? To utilize life. They don't think it's forever. Utilize life. That living should take to heart. But the Gemara says a drash. The living should give to himself. This is my pshat. That the people make a mistake, and I think it's a mistake. And they think the Gemara says that a person should take to heart that if he's not going to do favors for others, then he's not going to get favors for himself. But I don't think that's what the Gemara means. The Gemara doesn't mean that's what you're supposed to think when you go to a funeral. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to think of. You're supposed to think about what. I'm gonna carry the beer. Because that way, and I need it to help me out also. That's not what we're supposed to think about.
Okay.
He's supposed to think about what life's all about, what death is all about. But there's a drush over here that the living should give to themselves. What should they give to themselves? It's not that way he's supposed to think about. This is what he's supposed to do in the Bismillah, not by the funeral.
Yeah.
That a person should realize that when he does for others, he'll get for himself. If he helps others, they'll help him. If he doesn't help, then they're not going to help him. So that's what the drush is. He who eulogizes, that they eulogize him. If he cries, they'll cry for him. If he buries, they'll bury him. So this woman that she's now making a net that she's not going to go to other people's funerals, so they're not going to come to her.
Yeah.
So that's considered so it's not only for the relatives. It could be the more could have asked kasha that maybe relatives it is considered in nefesh, but the more goes further that it's in nefesh for anybody, for any not to go to any funeral.
So I'm sorry.
So we
the
answer.
drush, seems like is the drush like what you said it's not, or it is?
What do you think the drash is? Put it this way. What does the drash say?
He who eulogizes, they'll eulogize for him.
Right. That's what the drash for sure. The question is, does that when the pasuk says achayit and alibo, the living will give to his heart.
No, you should take to heart. Life.
Right. And the Gemara says,
But-
the Gemara
but
says,
the
achayit and
inui
alibo.
will be the inui will be that no one, if you don't go. you
Yeah, but that's the in as far as the in. We're not talking about
That
in.
goes
The
about
pasuk is
in.
not about in. The pasuk is talking about there's a drash over here. Achayit and alibo, the living give to themselves. That's a drash to read the
I
pasuk.
see, okay.
Okay, so what happened? We had an issue with a machlokis. We tried to bring two guys against Rabbi Yochanan, and neither of them was successful. So we still have a machlokis. When a husband has the right to nullify a neder because is Inoi, but the pits and skin is not Inoi. So Shmuel's happy, Shmuel's smiling, saying, yeah, it's so since you're allowed to be made for parts, made for the whole thing. And Rabbi Yochanan will say, no, it's only by Tumah. Tumah is also considered an Inui. Everything's an Inui. Probably the hair is also an Inui, not to be able to cut the hair. And as far as the pits, that's because Ein Nazirus Lachatzayin. So we didn't bring a proof to the question. We left it hanging, Machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Shmuel. Next Mishnah. If the woman made a nazirus that I'm not going to benefit from people, the words are a little bit tricky.
That sounds like you need.
Why? She's not going to get any
How can
benefit.
anybody not benefit from?
You're not going to benefit from anybody. So before the
First of all, we just sitting here, who made the chair? Who gave us the electricity? Everything is from some. other
so it
people.
could mean from now on.
From now on, how can I sit in a chair? How can I walk on the streets? Somebody paid somebody.
Okay, so let's say that it means food. I'm not going to benefit food from people.
I'll pick my own from Hefker or from my own.
Very nice, very nice. So some learn that's what the Mishnah says. She can get like a shikhopeya. That's not called benefiting from people.
Okay.
That's why it's not considered that in her nefesh because she has food to eat.
Yeah, but she's gonna be hungry and she has to go.
No, she'll get like a
find the
shikhopeya.
field. But she gotta find the field and she's starving.
She'll find the field like a shikhopeya and she has what to eat.
And
By the time she gets to she lives in the city, rather. She's got to get out to the farmlands.
The farmland is right outside the city.
Doesn't
You're
have
living in
cars.
you're living in a big city that has no farms around
Got
it.
a lake
Okay.
across
He can't, this is not called an Inuit
I don't
because she
know.
can find what to eat.
Yes,
That's how someone learned the Mishnah. We'll see in the Gemara right away. But just to point out, we had a Mishnah. We had this two pages ago. We had Shmuel that said that even not to benefit from one person is called Inu Nefesh. That was the whole yesterday's sugya. Everyone should have jumped up. That yesterday we learned that even not to benefit from one person is considered Inui.
Right.
And he was saying not to benefit from anybody is not Inui.
yes.
That's very extreme.
That's
So the
Not
Gemara-
benefit
why I
from
don't,
one person.
I don't.
So that
This is not called Inuit. This is tremendous Inuit.
so the Gemara says, so the Mepharshim say that we just finished saying that the Mishnah, the Mishnah is of Yossi, is Rabbanan and Rav Yossi. Rav Yossi holds that the Gemara gave in. Shmuel does not go in according to Rav Yossi. Rav Yossi says that not benefiting from people is not considered Inui. And before we spoke about one person, we brought a Mishnah about Chenveni, that not to benefit from a Chenveni is considered Inui. And we said that's Rav Yossi, is not considered Inui. But the Shmuel holds like the Rabbanan. So here is also the same thing, that the Mishnah here is Rav Yossi, he holds that not to benefit not only from one person, not to benefit from anybody, is also not considered Inui. And Enochnami, the Rabbanan argue, and Shmuel will hold like the Rabbanan, and says that even not to benefit from one person is Inui. But this Mishnah says, Rav Yossi is talking, till the end of the parak, Rav Yossi is talking, that if the woman asks herself to benefit from people, he cannot nullify it.
Mhm.
Now you might say that you're not allowed to take Lakat Shikhopeya either, because it's also from people.
With Hefka.
It's considered
Oh,
Hefka.
it's from.
Hefka is not-
Yechol Ish Lahas Lakat Shikhopeya. Could she take tzedakah from somebody? Maybe not.
It's also.
Maybe not, because by or Ma'aser Sheni, Ma'aser Ani, or tzedakah that the person has the right to decide who I want to give it to. But Lakat Shikhopeya doesn't have to do with the owner. The owner of the field has to be mafkir. Whoever wants to take it, can take it. All the poor people. But if it's a kind of a tzedakah that I have the right to decide who I want to give it to, so then that might be considered you're banging the from the person. But Lakat Shikhopeya is not considered benefit. How about Konim Levim and Nedarim Li? That I'm not gonna. I ask myself to benefit Konim and Levim. All the Konim and Levim are not allowed to benefit from me.
That's-
But they're not allowed to benefit.
From me. Nedarim Li are not allowed to
that's a
benefit
big
from me.
problem, because it's chayav ma'aser
Just not even true.
So could her nether stop from giving Trumas and Maestros? No, you have to walk Koko,
Never stop.
because you don't have a right to do it. You're able to give Trumas and Maestros. You can't ask them to benefit from you because the Torah says that you must give it. How about Konim Elu, Levim Elu, Nedarim Li? She didn't ask her all the Konim Levim, the specific ones. These specific Konim Levim, I asked them to then then she didn't go against the law. The law says she has to give Trumas and Maestros, but she has the right who to give it to. So she could say that these Konim Levim are not allowed to benefit from me, and she give it Trumas and Maestros to other Konim Levim. So we spoke about this lady who said, I asked her myself to benefit from all people. Is her husband included? When she says, I asked myself to benefit from all people, is her husband included?
Oh, it is included in the lotion that she said.
Is it included? Is it included? When a woman says, I asked her myself on all people, from all
She
people.
won with her husband. Like a
That's-
How do people talk when they say, is to say it's not a mensch, or even if he is a mensch, but he's more than a mensch, he's my husband. I don't call him a people. So that's the question
He's
in
not
when
a
people.
person, he's my husband.
So that's the question. When she said this term, Konam Shani the Brios, does that include her husband? Now the Gemara thinks the reason why it's not Inu Nefesh, we asked the question right away. Leib Yaakov said the answer, so it took us in a certain direction, which could be right. But the Gemara thinks at first glance, the reason why it's not Inu Nefesh, where's she going to get food from? So Leib Yaakov said, from Lakat Shikhopeya, which maybe that's what the Mishnah says. But the Gemara at first glance thinks the reason why she doesn't need everybody else is because she has her husband. Her husband is going to support her. If her husband is also part of the people that she's not allowed to benefit from, so then she's really in trouble. How's she going to eat?
Right, so at that point, it's Mayfair. The husband can Mayfair it on the spot because she's gonna be know herself in the Torah.
Again,
Wait,
are you saying
In which
case is it Inu?
If she includes her husband,
Right, and the
there's,
Mishnah says,
there's nothing to fall back on. She's in big trouble.
and the Mishnah says, any Yochalaper. Why?
Why?
Because she could benefit from her husband because he's not included in people.
Yeah, could have said that.
Maybe it says that. Alma, actually, mitzvah, not medilei. You see, that she
What's
could
this? Yeah.
to be nourished. This is a
Nourished,
mizonah. You see that she could get parnasa from him.
Yes.
The fact that it says that it's not, she's not in trouble, and yachal hafer, why? Because she has who to get food from. Because the husband is not included in the nether. The fact that it says any yachal hafer, the Gemara thinks that it says here that she could benefit from the husband. That's why she can't benefit from everybody else, because she's not in trouble. It's not any yachal hafer, it's not in nefesh, because she has where to get support from. If so, we could deduce that the Mishnah holds that the husband is not included when she says brios. The word brios, people, is he included in people? So it seems to the Mishnah that he's not included in people, and therefore she could get supported from him, and therefore it's not in nefesh not to get supported from anybody else. But the Mishnah continues. The more continues. Ema Seifa. It says in the Mishnah the reason why she
But I don't
could-
understand. Why didn't the Mishnah then say he'll feed her?
that's what it says. It doesn't say it openly, but it's understood between the lines. How come any yachal hafer? It must be because he's going to feed her. But now you're going to read the Mishnah further and say, no, the Mishnah says the reason why is because she can get like a shikopeya. That's the Gemara's going to ask.
I
But
see.
the Mishnah,
I see. Okay.
Ema Seifa, the Mishnah says the reason why
Oh, you're right. Okay.
Yehola lehanos like a shikopeya, and that means to say the Mishnah explains the reason why it's not considered in nefesh is because she has what to eat from. She can get like a shikopeya. It doesn't say
Not from
because
her husband.
Abba with the Baal lo achla. It sounds like she can't get from the husband. The Mishnah doesn't say the reason why it's not inu nefesh is because she can get from the husband. It says it's not inu nefesh because she can get from like a shikopeya. That sounds like the husband cannot support her because he is included in people. Alma Baal b'chlal b'yosu. The more makes contradiction out of it. The one's going to say a couple of terutzim. I think three terutzim. Amar Ula. And then it's going to be Rava Amar. And then it's going to be Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman Amar. Three terutzim on the page. Amar Ula. La'olam la b'chlal b'yosu. He's not included. So what's mean not included? So that's the reason why she could.
He's not included.
He's not
so he
included.
can feed
She
her.
could feed her, and therefore that's the reason why she cannot be mefer. He cannot be
He
mefer
cannot be
because
mefer
she's
because she
she's
still has what to eat.
so
from
why does
him.
the Mishnah say the reason is tzedakah? The ode. Another reason. Two reasons. One reason is because the husband can
Him
support her,
and them.
and also
them.
that she can get that,
Uh-huh.
that even if he's poor and he can't support her, she can get from tzedakah. If the husband, by the way, if the husband is supporting her, then she can't get tzedakah. The one Mishnah makes it sound like she could take like a shikopay. Who said that she's poor? So if she can't get from the husband, she's poor. Even if he's a millionaire, she's poor. In 1 second, she made herself poor because she said, I'm not going to benefit from anybody. If it includes her husband, so the Mishnah says she can't benefit from anybody, and the husband could be mefer, cannot be mefer, and she has tzedakah to take because she's not poor.
Well, maybe he went on a fundraising trip and just didn't leave any.
Or maybe he's poor.
Or maybe he's.
So the Mishnah says that there are two reasons. First of all, she could take from the husband, and even if he doesn't have what to give her, so she could take chikhel, but like a chikhel bear.
that's
So Ulda doesn't see a kasha, even though it doesn't say it, but that means that also that the husband can support her, and also the tzedakah can support her. And don't say here that the husband is included in people. He's not included, and she could benefit from him. Rava Amar lo ba'al b'chlal b'yosu. He is included in people.
This is the third one?
This is the second one. Rava. Rava
I
says
thought the order is the second one.
no. Va'od is Ula's answer.
Oh,
That the read into the Mishnah that not only could she get from the husband, she also could get from tzedakah, from like a chikopeh. The Mishnah doesn't say the word va'od. He's putting it into the Mishnah. As if the Mishnah is saying another thing. Besides getting from the husband, she also can get from like a chikopeh. There's number two, that husband is yes included in brios, and this is what Levi Yaakov said. That the Mishnah says the reason why she's not inui nefesh is because she can get tzedakah, and the husband taka cannot give her. No one can give her. So where's she going to get food from? From tzedakah, and therefore it's not inui nefesh, and the husband cannot be made. The Mishnah is explaining itself. The Mishnah itself is saying, you know why he cannot be made for? Is it not in a nefesh? She can't get food from anybody because she can get from like a shikopeya. According to this, she can't even get from the husband either. The question is what she meant to say when she says people. Does that include the husband or not? Rav Nachman also holds like Ula that the husband is not included, and he could give her to eat. So how is she allowed to get like a shikopeya? So before, if she's getting support from the husband, so why? So I said, in the case the husband is poor, or Yaakov said, if he went away, he's not here, she's poor. But Achikitani, there's Gasha, that if she's going to get divorced from him, so she can like a shikopeya. As long, what first of all, the husband can support her, so it's not eating nefesh. And you might think that he should be able to be made for because it is the Inu Nefesh in case he's ever going to divorce her. Right now, they're not divorced, but he might divorce her. And if he's going to divorce her, it's going to become Inu Nefesh. The Gemara seems to say that something which is not Inu Nefesh right now, but it might come to become Inu Nefesh, is also enough reason that he should be able to be made for. So here, even though right now he's supporting her, she has a source of support. As long as she's married, she has a source of support. But if she ever gets divorced, she's not going to have a source of support, and she's not going to be able to be made benefit from anybody. And she says no. She also can get stuck at that time. Like a shikopaya. So that's the reason why I cannot. It's never going to become Inu Nefesh.
So is there enough between Ula and Rav Nachman? Ula says she's married and he's not, and he can support her. But if he's poor himself, then she can
Right.
become that. He says, but if he divorces. her."
Both of them l'chora would be. Both of them are good. Both of them should agree to each other l'chora.
Mhm.
Maybe this is considered a chiddush that if it's going to become one day Inu Nefesh is also enough to be considered Inu Nefesh, even though right now it's not. If Nachman who's a little chiddush in his words that even if right now it's not Inu Nefesh, it might become. There's another reason why it can be made for right now.
Well, look at also,
Which
say
may,
he might become poor.
yeah,
He might become poor.
oh, good, okay. And also there could be not such a chiddush because we had before that if I can't benefit that we had this point about not benefiting from somebody in Shmuel, Allah, not like the Chacham, not like Rabbi Yossi, even though right now she doesn't need anybody, she doesn't need him. But one day you might need this person. One day you might need him. He's
She
an
broke her leg,
electrician.
Rebbe, she broke her leg, that's for sure. So what happens? She can't go out and.
And get back at Shikopay. Sometimes that's in Kasha, that sometimes back at Shikopay is not enough. I don't know the answer.
I mean, it's
Okay,
true.
she
I
can
The
mean,
mission makes it
negotiate
sound like
better
back at
than-
Shikopay, everything's fine. Everything's Beseda. So I'm never saying not Beseda. Back at Shikopay is very difficult and sometimes it's not enough and she can't go. Why is it so simple that she's supported because I like a
Oh, by the way,
Shikopay?
it says Lekes Shichten Pei is not all year long. It's not,
You-
it's
you-
not,
you
it's
get
not
it.
12 months a year.
Yeah, everyone only has a harvest once a year.
So,
And you get the harvest like everybody else does.
no, but she didn't prepare enough. She didn't get
Everyone's
enough from
supposed to
the,
go
from
to the field,
previous
like a
harvest.
Shikopay.
Get paid.
It doesn't have to do with one, it has to do with once a year when there's a harvest time, so then you prepare for the whole year. The people who are rich, they take the harvest into the farm, and those that are poor, they take like a Chick-fil-A into their barn.
Okay.
So it's cases before, that there's not enough everybody sometimes,
All
or
kinds
she's a
of
broken,
stuff.
yeah, but not the point about the whole year
It's
round.
about
The whole year,
sustenance, life sustenance.
the whole year round means that they get sustenance by the harvest time for the rest of the
It's a
year.
hard one. You can't rely on it.
Okay.
It's a
Well,
life-
what about if he died? What, and then he said that.
Yeah, same thing as this Gasha. Same thing.
Mhm.
Yeshikov, thank you.
So we got to the second last line.
You got to the last word,
The last
word,
word.
Last
Oh.
word on
including the last word.
Hachi
Hey,
Katani
Gimel.
Nigasha Yechola
Well,
Well, up to date.
What?
Uh,
Up to date to the word.
Didn't work. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeshikov, thank you.
Very short, but-
We'll be back in a few minutes. It's overtime already. Okay, we'll be back in very soon.
And so three nice illustrations. The paya is the corner of the field.
It's not the corner, right?
The edge of the
edge.
field, they made it an edge of the field. It's the edge of the field, and lekach is,
Leket.
leket is individual, whatever they're called.
Leanings.
Hmm?
Leanings. The
They're not
gleanings.
bound up. They're not bound up when they got forgotten. Or it's gleaning, it's not shit.
Leaning is what falls.
It falls,
What
it's
What
falls.
falls during the harvest, what falls, that's called leket,
Okay, and then the other one was that it was a bundle
and it was forgotten.
and forgotten.
I think the shikha might even be if it's not a bundle, but it's forgotten. That was one forgotten. Leket is that things that fall
Oh, okay.
during the harvest and during the reaping, things
You
that
said
fall.
the other
And shikha is
The
what's
data that-
forgotten.
Difficult, what's forgotten?
Shikha is what's forgotten.